At the start, it felt like love. You believed she cared about you deeply. But as time passed, something began to feel wrong. You started feeling watched instead of supported, guided instead of understood. It felt like every move you made was being evaluated, corrected, or judged. The more effort you put in, the harder it became. The expectations never stayed the same. One rule quietly turned into many. What was acceptable yesterday suddenly became a problem today. You were left trying to keep up, wondering how things changed so fast, and why you always seemed to fall short. This shift was not in your imagination. This is what happens when you are involved with a woman who shows traits of narcissism. What looks confusing and chaotic from your side is often very organized from hers. Control is not random. It follows a pattern. In this video, you will hear 7 clear ways a narcissistic woman slowly trained you to doubt yourself, hold back your true thoughts, comply to keep the peace, and work harder just to avoid losing her approval. Stay until the end, because this video also explains why walking away can feel nearly impossible once this conditioning has fully taken hold. She made you the rescuer, then punished you for failing. At the beginning, she opened up very fast. She shared painful experiences, emotional wounds, and past betrayals early on. This made you feel special. You felt trusted. You felt like she chose you because you were safe and different. That closeness created a strong emotional bond before the relationship had time to grow naturally. As you listened, something subtle happened. You began to feel responsible for her emotional state. You wanted to protect her from ever feeling hurt again. You started believing that if she felt sad, scared, or upset, it meant you were not doing enough. Her emotions slowly became your job to manage. Over time, that role became heavier. Her happiness depended on your actions. Her sense of safety depended on your behavior. When she felt insecure, you were blamed. When she felt disappointed, you were told you failed. Even problems that had nothing to do with you were placed on your shoulders. The promises you made during emotional moments were never forgotten. They were stored and brought back later. When you could not meet expectations that kept changing, she reminded you of who you said you would be. Those words were no longer about connection. They were used to pressure you into compliance. Eventually, you stopped feeling like an equal partner. You felt judged, measured, and constantly evaluated. Your value came from how well you performed emotionally. The relationship stopped being about mutual care and turned into something where you were always trying to pass a test that never ended. She used your vulnerabilities against you. From the start, she pushed emotional honesty very hard. Opening up was not optional. It felt like something you had to do to keep the connection strong. You shared personal fears, old wounds, and private insecurities because that was the tone she set. It seemed like trust meant full access to your inner world. She listened closely, but not in the way you thought. She paid attention to what made you feel small, what embarrassed you, and what triggered strong emotions. She noticed which topics made your voice change or your body tense. None of that information disappeared. It stayed with her. When conflict showed up, those details came back in subtle ways. She knew how to push you emotionally while still appearing calm. A few words, a certain tone, or a well-timed comment was enough. You reacted because you were human. That reaction became her focus, not what caused it. Once you reacted, the narrative shifted fast. The conversation stopped being about the issue. it became about your emotions. Your frustration was framed as aggression. Your hurt was labeled as weakness. Your response was used as proof that something was wrong with you. After enough of these moments, you started holding back. You stopped sharing certain thoughts. You avoided sensitive topics. You chose silence because it felt safer than being misunderstood or judged. Speaking honestly no longer felt like connection. It felt risky. This is how control deepens without force. When someone learns your emotional pressure points and uses them repeatedly, you begin to self-police. You adjust before she even says anything. That quiet shift is not love. It is emotional conditioning. She controlled you through rewards and withdrawal. At first, affection felt easy and natural. She showed interest, attention, and closeness without hesitation. You felt appreciated and wanted. Those early moments created a strong emotional attachment. Your nervous system learned that being close to her felt good and safe. That feeling made you invest quickly, without realizing that the emotional balance was already leaning in her favor. After that bond formed, the tone began to change. Affection stopped being consistent. It showed up only when your behavior matched what she wanted. When you agreed, apologized, or adjusted yourself, warmth returned. When you questioned something or expressed discomfort, that warmth disappeared without explanation. Her distance did not come with clarity. There was no calm discussion or emotional repair. Instead, communication dropped. Messages slowed. Eye contact changed. Physical closeness vanished. You were left alone with confusion, trying to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it without guidance. That uncertainty pushed you inward. You started reviewing conversations in your head. You checked your tone, your words, and your reactions. You became more cautious, trying to avoid the emotional shutdown that felt painful. You learned that staying agreeable reduced tension, even when it meant ignoring your own needs. With enough repetition, your behavior shifted automatically. You stopped bringing up concerns. You avoided disagreement. You focused on keeping things calm rather than being honest. The relationship stopped feeling like a place where both people showed up fully. It became a place where you managed yourself to maintain connection. This pattern works because the reward feels relieving after the withdrawal. When affection returned, it felt powerful. That relief reinforced the behavior that led to it. Without realizing it, you were being trained to associate compliance with closeness and honesty with loss. That is not emotional safety. It is control built through conditioning. She showed no real empathy for you. She often presented herself as emotionally aware. She talked about being sensitive, caring, and deeply affected by feelings. That description shaped your expectations. You believed she would understand your emotions the way you understood hers. You trusted that emotional support would go both ways, because that is how healthy connections usually work. When you faced stress or pain, the response felt empty. Your struggles were brushed aside or treated as unimportant. What mattered to you seemed small to her. When you needed comfort, she appeared distracted or uninterested. Support was not offered naturally. It felt like asking for care created tension instead of closeness. If the situation involved her actions, empathy disappeared completely. The focus shifted fast. The conversation turned into what you did wrong or how you misunderstood her. Your feelings became the problem. Instead of listening, She defended herself and criticized your reaction. Accountability never stayed on her side for long. You noticed a pattern in emotional effort. You were expected to listen carefully, stay calm, and validate her feelings every time. Your role was to reassure, explain, and stabilize the situation. When roles reversed, that same effort did not exist. Emotional labor moved in one direction and stayed there. This imbalance taught you to suppress your needs. You learned that bringing up pain led to conflict or distance. You started handling things alone to avoid being dismissed. Emotional self-reliance became a survival habit, not a choice. Connection felt conditional on staying easy and low maintenance. A relationship without mutual empathy slowly drains energy. You stop feeling seen. You stop feeling valued. When emotional care is one-sided, closeness fades even if you stay physically present. Love requires understanding on both sides. Without it, what remains is endurance, not connection. Every situation became a no-win scenario. You noticed that every choice led to criticism. Giving her space was seen as emotional distance. Staying close was labeled as pressure. Sharing feelings meant you were too much. Staying quiet meant you did not care. There was no response that brought calm or resolution. Each option came with consequences, and none of them worked in your favor. This pattern created constant confusion. You tried to adjust because you assumed the problem was your approach. You believed that if you could just find the right balance, things would improve. Instead, the rules kept shifting. What upset her one day was demanded the next. Stability never lasted long enough to feel secure. Nothing was actually being solved. Arguments circled the same ground with different details. Each discussion ended with you feeling wrong, not understood. The goal was never clarity. The goal was to keep you focused on fixing yourself. As long as you believed you were the issue, her behavior stayed unexamined. You started questioning your instincts. Decisions that once felt simple became stressful. You hesitated before speaking. You replayed conversations afterward. Doubt replaced confidence. That inner tension made you easier to guide and harder to trust yourself. When self-trust weakens, external control grows without effort. This environment trained you to prioritize her reactions over your needs. You learned to predict her moods instead of listening to your own feelings. Peace depended on your flexibility, not mutual respect. You stayed alert, trying to avoid conflict rather than build understanding. That constant adjustment became exhausting. A healthy relationship does not punish every option. When nothing you do is right, the problem is not your effort. It is the structure itself. No-win situations are not accidents. They keep power on one side while draining the other. Recognizing this pattern is the first step toward breaking it. She lived by double standards. You began to notice that the same behavior meant different things depending on who did it. When she raised her voice, shut down, or acted impulsively, it was explained as stress or emotion. When you showed frustration or asked for space, it was criticized. You were expected to stay calm, understanding, and steady, even when the situation felt unfair. Mistakes worked the same way. Her slip-ups were minimized or justified. There was always a reason. Your mistakes were remembered, repeated, and used as proof of a bigger issue. One small misstep on your side carried more weight than many on hers. That imbalance made you feel constantly evaluated, while she stayed protected. When you tried to point out the difference, the conversation went nowhere. She rejected the comparison immediately. The focus shifted away from the behavior and onto your tone or timing. The discussion stopped being about fairness and turned into another example of what you were doing wrong. You learned quickly that holding her to the same standard created conflict. Staying silent felt easier than being accused of starting problems. That silence did not mean agreement. It meant avoiding another exhausting argument where nothing changed except your stress level. This dynamic slowly shaped your behavior. You took responsibility for keeping things smooth. You managed your emotions carefully while giving her room to express anything she felt. Balance disappeared. Emotional effort came from one side, while permission flowed to the other. Living under double standards wears you down because it removes equality. You stop expecting fairness and start negotiating for peace. A relationship built this way is not about teamwork. It is about control. Seeing this clearly helps you understand that the issue was never your inability to do better. She rewrote reality. After arguments, you walked away feeling unsettled. You knew what happened. You remembered the words, the timing, and how things unfolded. Yet, when the conversation came up again, her version sounded different. Small details were changed. Important parts were left out. The core issue shifted. You were left wondering how two people could remember the same moment so differently. She did not deny everything. That is what made it confusing. She kept enough facts to sound reasonable. She repeated parts of what you said, but changed the meaning behind them. Tone became the focus. Intent was redefined. Suddenly, what you meant no longer mattered. What she said you meant became the truth in the conversation. When you tried to clarify, the discussion went in circles. You explained your point again, hoping to be understood. Instead, the story changed slightly each time. You began defending details instead of addressing the real issue. That constant correction drained your energy and pulled attention away from what originally bothered you. This process slowly affected your confidence. You replayed conversations in your head, trying to check yourself. You asked whether you misunderstood something obvious. You wondered if you reacted too strongly or remembered it wrong. That internal questioning became automatic, even before she said anything. Once doubt settled in, decision-making felt harder. You hesitated to bring things up because you expected confusion or blame. Trusting your own judgment no longer felt safe. When someone consistently challenges your perception, your inner voice grows quieter. You start relying on their version instead of your own experience. Control becomes easier when certainty disappears. You were not imagining the confusion. It did not come from poor memory or emotional weakness. It came from repeated distortion. Recognizing this pattern helps you reconnect with your instincts and rebuild trust in how you see and understand your own reality. Why leaving feels so hard. After being trained, by the time you start realizing something is wrong, your confidence is already worn down. You do not see yourself the same way anymore. Decisions that once felt natural now feel heavy. You second-guess your thoughts and feelings. When she criticizes you, it feels believable because you have been hearing it for so long. Her voice slowly replaced your own inner judgment. You begin trusting her version of you more than your lived experience. When she says you are difficult, selfish, or not enough, part of you accepts it as truth. This makes leaving feel risky. Walking away feels like admitting you failed. Staying feels like the only way to prove you you are not the person she claims you are. Another reason is how strongly you crave her approval. When affection is rare, it becomes powerful. A small sign of warmth feels intense because it breaks a long stretch of emotional distance. Those moments feel calming and grounding, even if they do not last. You hold on to them because they remind you of how things were at the beginning. Your nervous system adapts to that pattern. High stress, followed by brief relief, becomes familiar. The relief feels rewarding because it stops the tension. That cycle makes it hard to walk away. Even when you know the situation is unhealthy, you are not weak for feeling this way. Your body learned to survive in that environment. Hope also plays a big role. You remember the version of her from early on. You believe that if you say the right thing or act the right way, that version will return for good. You keep working toward that future because it once felt real. Letting go means accepting that effort will never lead where you hoped. Leaving requires facing grief, not just loss. You are letting go of a dream you invested deeply in. That is painful. Staying feels easier than confronting that disappointment. Understanding this helps you be kinder to yourself. Difficulty leaving does not mean you are trapped forever. It means you cared. And now, you are learning to choose yourself. If this video hits close to home, that matters. It means you are seeing things more clearly than before. Nothing about this awareness makes you weak. It shows strength. You lived through confusion, pressure, and emotional strain, and you are still here. What happened did not take away your value. It only made it harder to see yourself clearly for a while. You still have the ability to trust yourself again. That trust comes back slowly through small choices that respect your limits and your feelings. You are allowed to listen to your body and your emotions without explaining them to anyone. You are allowed to expect consistency, honesty, and respect. Those are not demands. They are basic needs. Healing does not require perfection. It starts by giving yourself permission to stop proving anything. You do not need to convince anyone of your worth. You do not need to earn care through effort or sacrifice. You are enough without shrinking, fixing, or performing. The moment you stop chasing approval, your energy begins to return. Moving forward does not mean forgetting what happened. It means learning from it without letting it define your future. You are allowed to choose calm. You are allowed to choose distance from people who drain you. You are allowed to build connections that feel steady and safe. Your life belongs to you, and you get to decide what stays in it. And as always, because YouTube's algorithm tends to favor videos with strong engagement, if you feel this video has brought you value, a simple like and a quick subscribe would mean so much. It not only helps this message reach more people who need it, but also ensures you will never miss the next video that could make a difference in your journey. Thanks all.